back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Whatnauts review show. This is number 116 of the Whatnauts review show. We are still getting up there, chugging along. We are also going to be talking about part 4 of Mr. Robot, season 4, their fourth and final season of Mr. Robot today. And I am excited to dive into all of that. If you did not know, here at the Whatnauts review show, we have a new story that we talk about each week. However, at the end of each month, we have been talking about a longer story, for example, a TV show that we have to cover multiple seasons of. So hence, we are on season 4 of Mr. Robot, but we're typically covering different genres, different mediums, all sorts of stuff. There's bound to be something for everyone. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined, as always, by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, how are you?
Hello. I'm doing all right this weekend. How are you, Kyle?
Good. I finally got a good night's sleep last night.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, I've been having trouble sleeping the past week, and it has not been fun, but finally went to sleep last night around 3 a.m., which is like semi-normal compared to what it has been the past couple weeks. So, oh well. But yeah, I am here. I have my can of Mountain Dew. Help me out. So.
Yeah, I sleep normal and still need a bunch of iced coffee to get me through the day.
Sounds good. It looks like we have Jack in the chat. He says, hello, friends. Oh,
hello, friend.
Hello, Jack. Welcome. Well, let's see. Man, we are on... I'm so excited to talk about season 4 of Mr. Robot. This is going to be great. Yeah, so if you guys have not seen the previous 3 episodes of our Mr. Robot coverage, you can scroll back in our feeds and find them. They are not exactly the previous 3 ones that we did, but we have some more stuff mixed in there as well. But Melissa, spoiler-free thoughts. What were your general impressions of season 4?
I don't know if I can name another series where its last season may be its best season.
Okay.
This is visually stunning. Some of the best cinematography the show has had, some of its best performances, some of its best music and editing. And the story keeps pulling the rug out from under you up until the last 20 minutes of the last episode.
Yeah. It's a damn good show. Holy moly. I put on Twitter when I got done, I was like, this show is amazing. It starts out wearing its heart on its sleeve, right? It's like inspirations are like very blatant and obvious, and it's like, well, it's, you know, I can see that stuff and that might not be all that great, but it's still really good. And beyond season 1, this show just grew into something all on its own, and it's amazing, and it is unexpectedly beautiful in places.
Yes.
And it's just like, this is like, I was not expecting this, and it's so good. So highly recommend this show. I don't know if I would say that season 4 was my favorite season overall. I think I may actually have to go back to season 1 on that, but
season 1, I'll say, has a lovely consistency to it. Like, beginning to end, it feels very much like the same thing, whereas the later seasons they're more experimental. The episodes will do one odd thing, like season 2 at the sitcom episode, season 3 at the one-shot episode. There's an episode in season 4 that's filmed like it's a black box play.
Yeah, and it's, I think, the best episode in the whole show. Holy moly.
Yeah.
We'll dive into that in a bit. But yeah, like I think it's season 1 was so good despite its like blatant influences and stuff like that I think in seasons 2 through 4, you're expecting some of the same stuff that it did, so you lose that surprise there, which stinks. It's like I wish I could have the same feeling of surprise that I had in season 1 for the things in season 4. It's still, like you said, they just keep changing things and keep pulling the rug out from under you. But yeah, by the end of the show, I was just like, this is a beautiful show. This is great.
Right. I'm so happy we're covering this so close to its finale. The finale just aired in December, and it's July now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's still in the cultural conversation, kind of. So get out there, be a part of it.
It's interesting because, we can look back on December and be like, it wasn't that long ago. But then, oh my God, this year, 2020, has been like nonstop hitting us over the head with everything. And it oddly seems far away at the same time, but it's also not that different. Like some of the things that are happening in that show, in the entirety of the show, kind of echo and mirror some things that have been happening just in 2020, right? And so yeah, it's an interesting show to watch right now. So kind of brief plot synopsis to catch people up. This might have a little bit of spoilers, hopefully not much, because this is season 4. But we will dive into full spoilers as we normally do in just a little bit. But plot synopsis to catch people up. What is season 4 about?
So Elliot is on his own. It's just him, Mr. Robot, and Darlene. And they are working to take down Whiterose. That's their final big goal. They found out that she's leading this secret organization called the Deus Group that's like the 1% of the 1%. And they hold all the riches and they make all the decisions. And they want to tear down that group and tear down this Hadron Collider machine that she's been building that she believes is going to reset the universe.
Wild stuff, and so they decide we need to rob them, take all of their money, hack them. And that is season 4. That is what they are trying to do.
And also, all of season 4 takes place around Christmas time.
Yes.
This entire season, I think, takes like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, because things are kind of rushed. They have to make sure things happen at a certain time. All of that stuff. Yeah, it's a wild show. Season 4 was really, really good. Yeah. Holy moly. Okay. Let's get into some housekeeping, and then we can dive into spoilers and all of that stuff. So yeah, if you guys did not know, we have multiple podcasts here at the Whatnauts. You guys can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com. Or you can type in the Whatnauts on your favorite podcasting platform of choice, and all of our shows will pop up right there. Let's see, if you guys like what we do, patreon.com/the Whatnauts is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. At the $3 tier, we have all sorts of exclusive content for all of our shows. Melissa, you and I just recorded yesterday the third and final Patreon exclusive Reactor Core episode, which you and I were reacting to movie trailers from the 2000s, from the 2010s, to be exact.
Yes.
We have done movie trailers from the 90s, from the 2000s, and we just recorded one from the 2010s, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a good experiment. I really liked the format, and yeah, it was just kind of this off the cuff. We just happened to watch these trailers of movies we've seen, some we haven't seen, some we remember from our childhood, and all sorts of stuff. And I think it turned out really, really well. Enjoyed it. Last but not least, a big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier. So thank you, Sam, for helping us out and supporting us. We appreciate it. We love you a lot.
Thank you. Yes.
Indeed. Yeah. And I guess since it's the next episode after that, speaking of Sam, you guys should go back and check out what we did last week, because Sam joined us here on the podcast, and we talked about the animated film Promare, which was a visually stunning anime.
Yeah.
A lot of mech and crazy art and colors and stuff like that. So it was good. Okay. I think that does it for housekeeping and all of that stuff. So let's get into spoilers.
Yes.
We are spoiler territory. Melissa?
We
have to start with episode 7.
Okay. All right.
Holy moly.
Let's just get it out of the way.
Was so good.
Yeah. And this is when you said that you didn't want to know a single thing about this last season. You were going in blind. I wanted to let you know that this was happening.
Yeah, I did not expect it, and I loved it.
Here's the thing about episode 7. It is emotionally devastating, but the way they deliver all the news to you is so impressive. And just the fact that this is the episode that's filmed like it's a black box play. That premise is really exciting. The performances are exciting.
Like, to be honest, if it was an actual play, I would go see that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think it works really well in the context of Mr. Robot, but I think just in general, it's an interesting story, right? About someone who is in therapy. Things have gone very, very wrong because he has pissed some people off, and they are now trying to get back at him through his therapist. And they're kind of having this forced therapy session at gunpoint, and it turns out to be really revealing, and it's intense and it's heartbreaking at the same time. But on the other side of the coin, it's also oddly heartening, and there's these emotional connections established that you're like, I actually am kind of rooting for the bad guy in this thing. I shouldn't be, but I kind of am, because he's actually the only one who's caring for him right now. And it's just I don't understand what is happening, but I like it.
Yeah, Vera's not a good guy, but he's getting us to a place where we need to be. You're right about this episode being oddly heartwarming. Yeah. I think Elliot and Krista has been one of my favorite relationships throughout the show, because they very clearly really care about each other and really want to protect the other person, and just keep getting into these bad situations where they don't want to do it. And then he tells Krista about 5'9", and she's understandably shocked, very scared and thinks she should just cut ties with him. And then a criminal drags her back into Elliot's life. And the scene where Vera's pointing the gun at her, making her counsel Elliot, and Elliot's trying to comfort her, is so sweet, because I think that's one of the few times you see Elliot really openly try to comfort someone and be there for them, not in just the sense of, I am trying to protect you, I am hacking something for you. But actually talking to somebody isn't something he gets to do very often. He
usually has his ways of showing that he cares. But it is often ways that people kind of raise an eyebrow at. And this is not, and it was him being more genuinely trying to help, and stuff like that. Yeah, but it was one of those things that when it immediately went up on screen and it was Act 1, I was just
yes,
okay, I like this. This is interesting. But it reminded me, because there was that moment in season 1 where they had a similar thing where I think there was an intermission in one of the
I think that's
episodes.
Beginning of season 2.
It may have been something like that. I
Yeah.
remember.
Oh,
I
no.
also remember being confused by it though, because I was like, wait, did we have a act one? Where did that go? But
Mhm.
yeah, like I really enjoyed it. It is shot. I think they knew that one was going to be the big moment in the season, or the big not finale, but the big like reveal in that, or
Yeah.
like the climax of the season. So they went all out on the cinematography, right? It is
Mhm.
shot in a little bit more widescreen than the rest of the show.
Mhm.
It looks a little bit more movie quality than the rest of the show, not by much, but it's still like it looks more like something you could see in a movie theater
Mhm.
rather than just on TV. Um, yeah, and it's crazy because it takes place really only in 2 rooms, and there's
Yes.
like 4 or 5 characters there, and 2 of
Mhm.
them aren't there for most of it, right? Like,
Yeah, there's Vera banishes his 2 hench
yeah,
people.
man, like yeah, that. So I watched that. It was I think it was Friday night that I watched that.
Ooh, oh, so so
So
you've watched the latter half of the season just
recently,
over this
yeah. So
weekend.
I
Ooh.
did not know there were more than 10 episodes in this season.
Oh.
And so I was kind of going on my regular like pace to have things done,
Okay.
and I think I would have had like one more episode to watch uh on Saturday yesterday. And yeah, it was like I think I watched episode 7 like Friday night or something, or I don't remember exactly, but I saw it and I was just like, I before I was watching something and I was like checking my phone and doing all of that stuff, but this is one like once it caught my attention, phone was down, I was hooked in on this one
Yeah.
thing. I was just like, this is intense. Holy moly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it benefits us in our watch that we can watch all of it in such a close time span. Like I can't imagine watching the show live as it airs week to week on the USA
Oh God,
network
no.
and it drops episode 7 and then you just have to live in that space for another
Look, I
week
did that with
until you get episode
Lost. I am not doing that again.
right. Is particularly for how devastating this episode is. I think it helps that I watched the show so quickly. So I'm still riding the high of how good episode 5
Yeah.
is. And then not too long after I watch episode 7, there's it's episode 9 where they execute the hack on the Deus group, which is such a victorious moment. And then you've got episode 10, which is the Dom and Darlene episode, which is also very
Which
victorious.
when
Like
I
watching it.
watched that, I still didn't know that there were more than 10, and so I was like, man, this finale sucks. Like I hated this. This is not what I want at all. And then like after that it did something and something else. I was like, wait, there's more. And I'm watching that one. I was like, okay, this is a better finale, but it's not. And then after that one, it was like finale part 1. I was like, oh my God, there's like 13 episodes. What is going on?
I know you didn't know
No,
this.
I had no idea.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, because like I do want to get back to episode 7 because I do have more to say on that. But yeah, like I think them like hinting at this hadron collider and multiple universes is a really interesting touch. I've had mixed feelings. I still kind of do, but like the idea of just like showing an alternate universe or having time travel, I'm like very cautious with this show because this show is very particular in what it shows you and what it does not. So I was struggling on whether or not I wanted it to show me alternate realities or time travel and stuff like that. And yeah, by the end of episode 10, they haven't really shown you that stuff yet. And so I was like, all right, cool. Like I'm fine with that. Like they hinted at that. I know that's what they were implying or what they were going for, but they never show it to you. I kind of like that. But yeah, and then there were like 3 more episodes after that in which they do show you another reality, which was not even really another reality. That was a little confusing. So, but yeah, it was good. I enjoyed the finale and stuff as well.
I did too. Yeah.
So real quick, back to episode 7. Yeah.
Yes.
This was one that I thought was really interesting because, yeah, like we said, this is the climax of the entire season, right? Well,
yeah,
for the most part, or at least when the climax starts, if that makes sense. But it like I think the reveal in episode 7, I don't know if it hit me as hard as it should have. I think this is what I meant when I was saying, like, I wish the surprise of season 1 was still around for me in season 4. Whereas season 4, I was kind of taught to expect that stuff. Like, not everything is as it seems or stuff like that. And I think with seeing how much trouble Elliot has been through in his life, how many mental issues he's been dealing with, all the hardship, all that stuff, kind of this big reveal that he was sexually molested as a child wasn't really much of a surprise to me. It was kind of just like, okay, that makes sense.
It was a surprise to me, I think, because it initially felt like a different flavor of darkness than what this show felt like it was dealing with. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, this does make absolute sense. And there's like, when you look at previous seasons under that lens, it's like, oh, yeah, that was there the whole time. I just didn't think about it because I didn't want to think about it. And again, I took too much of Elliot, like, you know, at his own word. And I thought about that season 3 finale where he's like, oh, I jumped out of the window. And it's sad because you get the implication that he was so sick even back then, but it seems like that was something he did out of his own interior illness, which is sad, but it seems to, at least the reading I got was that it was kind of empowering to Elliot that this great trauma of his life was his own doing. And because it was his own doing, that made him more,
like
if he was an active agent. Yeah, if he was an active agent in that, he could be an active agent in other places of his life. And then I get to episode 7, and I'm like, oh boy, I have been wrong about a lot of things. I have been disastrously wrong.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I went back and I watched episode 3, the Damon's episode where he's having those morphine withdrawal hallucinations after I finished the whole season. And I had forgotten that entire set of hallucinations is all about keys and all about monsters. And even back in season 3, it was there.
Interesting. Yeah.
Not season 3, episode 3 of season 1, the whole time.
Yeah. Which is great because I do remember a lot of these. Like I don't necessarily remember his hallucinations in that like morphine high thing, but I do remember when he wakes up and he's trying to like install the Raspberry Pi in the thermostat thing, and yeah, he does see like this hallucination of his mom beating him. Like when he was younger, and like I remember that stuff. So like, it's drip fed to us throughout seasons 1 through 3, but it's not enough for us to really kind of formulate any theory on what these are exactly. It's just like, something is up.
Yeah, and then to jump to this twist, which is at the end of episode 2 of season 4, where you find out every time Elliot has been seeing his mom yelling at childhood him, you think it's just a visualization of a memory he's having. No, those are other personalities, just like Mr. Robot is. So when you see Christian Slater in the same scene as Rami Malek, it's that exact same type of visualization.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different kind. The mom and child him have been here the whole time. That threw me for a loop. Like, after I watched that episode, I'm like, I need to like lie down.
Yeah. And then I think one the like big final twist is that, in fact, the Elliot that we have seen this entire time is a made-up personality. It is not the, in fact, real Elliot, which we have not seen this entire show.
Yeah, I think, I forget if this is in season 2 or 3, but there's the flashback to where it's Halloween the previous year, and Darlene comes back into town from wherever it is she's been, and like she wants to hang out with Elliot and watch that horror movie. I think that might be the only time where we see original Prime Elliot. And when you first see that scene, you think that's when Mr. Robot first activates. And then later you get to the end of the series and you're like, oh no, Mr. Robot's been here since Elliot was like 7. This was the mastermind activating. This was the Elliot that we believed that we have known this whole time.
Yeah. So it's some wild stuff. But there's just emotional moment after emotional moment. I think. I think even in episode 10, when I was like, man, this finale sucks. Because it was all focused on Darlene, which I love her as a character, but I was like, she's not the main character of the show. What is happening here? But the whole moment of her and Dom basically running away together, and Dom kind of chickening out at the last second and getting cold feet, and then changing her mind again. But then while that is happening, Darlene is about to get on, and she panics and she can't get on, so she runs into the bathroom. Meanwhile, Dom is coming back, hoping she can be there with Darlene, and she gets on the plane, but Darlene doesn't. I was just like, oh no! Like, you're not supposed to do the bait and switch on this. No, don't do this.
That scene, and all of this is set to Carly Rae Jepsen's "Run Away with Me," but it's edited so that the song keeps stopping, and then there's silence, and then somebody will like turn, like it's Dom walking away from the airport, and then she's like, no, I have to go back, and like then the music hits again. It's so well edited, and that was like the highest emotional high I've had, I think, watching this entire series. I'm watching the scene and my roommate comes home and she walks in and I'm sitting on the couch. I've got my shirt like pulled up over my face and I am crying.
No, they need to be together. And I need to find true love.
That hit me really hard, I think, because like it's such a victorious thing after how dark episode 7 is. Like, you need a win like that, and you've got the win in the previous episode where they do take down the Deus group, but this is more personal and more emotional, and you want it so badly for both of the characters.
They both need it.
And just the but I like that it ends with you can tell that they want to run away together, but they have valid other priorities at the time. Like, it is good that Darlene says, no, I shouldn't go on this trip right now. I need to be around for Elliot. That's what she's supposed to do. And in the grand scheme of things, it really works out. And I think looking at how harried and miserable and self-sacrificing and honest and pure Dom has been, to have the last time you see her, like actual her in this season, she's finally falling asleep. She's finally getting some rest as she's flying away on a plane to take a vacation. And like knowing that she's going to come back to Darlene in however many days or weeks.
Yeah.
It's satisfying.
Yeah, it's a good one. and I find it interesting that we don't really get much of Darlene's childhood.
Yeah.
This is almost what I was expecting in season 7. Or not in season 7, in episode 7. Man, I wish there were 7 seasons of this because it was great. But when they are digging down to the reveal that Elliot was sexually molested when he was a child, they weren't saying it at first. They were just like, "What is it? Say it! Like, just get it out." Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things. I didn't know exactly what it was, so I was like, "It could be this. It could be that." One of my thoughts was like, okay, he hid Darlene in the closet. What if Darlene was sexually molested? Like, that was one of my thoughts. And he was trying to protect her, and he has done some crazy things to protect her, right? Like, jump out of a window and stuff. Like, hey, if he can make it about him instead and that they need to focus on him, she will be protected, right? And so I was like, maybe that's it. Which I think also would have maybe been believable. But we don't get much of her childhood. We know that she's not as kind of mentally unstable as Elliot, but you can tell she has her own issues and stuff as well. We just don't really get to see them as much in the show, which is why I'm sure despite me not liking episode 10 as much, was still just like, no, she needs to be with Dom. Go have a vacation. You need it.
Yes, she does deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
that is a hole that this show is always operated around that I would like to see filled in, of like, what was Darlene's childhood from her own perspective? Where has she been? Like I mentioned, there's that Halloween flashback where she comes back into town. Where was she? What has she been doing with her adult life?
What was her relationship with her like older teenage?
Yeah. What was her relationship with her mom? Because all we really see is that sitcom episode where the mom
knocking her out, which is another reason why I was like, maybe there's some issues there. We see her mom beating the younger version of Elliot in season 1. We now see the sitcom one where she's beating Darlene. Like, what is going on here? There is something happening that they are not talking about. But I think at the same time, I'm glad that they didn't dive into all of that stuff, because I think it keeps the focus on the main character and ends up telling the story that they really wanted to tell, right? Like, as much as I just said that I wish there were 7 seasons of this, I'm glad that they are 4 and done. That was it. And this seems to be like, this was the story the entire time.
Yes.
Right? Which is always a great thing, and it sucks when they have to be like, okay, story's basically done, but you guys got renewed for 3 more seasons. What are you gonna do? You know? It's like if you guys have seen the show Rurouni Kenshin, it's an anime. That show wraps up at episode 60 and then goes on for another like 60 something episodes after that. It's just like, the show is done. Like, there's nothing more for them to do. They solved their main problem. And it's just like, like, it ends up getting good again after that eventually, but it just like, why? It should have just stopped at 60. Like, that was the story. But yeah, so I'm thankful that they did not go into all of these characters' backstories and stuff like that. As much as I would have liked that, because I'm all about the world building and stuff like that, I'm thankful that they just stuck with what they wanted to tell.
I think the show picks and chooses its flashbacks and its backstories really well. I love the Whiterose flashback we get for like 10 or 15 minutes at the beginning of one episode. That was a great one
to see.
That was amazing.
Her motivation.
Yeah, the shot of her when her lover opens the hotel door and she's sitting there in the dark and then the light hits her and it hits these mirrors behind her and she turns around and she's wearing her mother's dress is one of the most beautiful shots in the entire series.
It's a great shot. Yeah, all of that stuff was really, really good because, and so let's talk about Whiterose here. Last, when we were covering season 3, and we were like, wait, holy shit, a hadron collider? What does this mean? Like time travel, multiple realities? Yeah, we were right. Like he is, or again, she is trying to basically like reset the world, like you said, or go to another reality where things are correct, where things are the way that she wants them to be, where her lover is still alive and they can be together and they can be happy and they can be who they are, and she's basically being like guys, this makes sense. We can all have what we want here. Just let me do this thing. And they're all just like, you're kind of delusional. Like, this is like fringe science at best. And yeah, it's one of those things that I feel like I was actually wrestling with Whiterose once they revealed that. I mean, I guess I could say I was before, but once they truly showed us her motivation, it was like, okay, so this really is the gay person is the villain trope, and I was just like, I don't know if I like that as much, but I still think she's a fantastic villain.
She's so sympathetic the entire time, and she becomes much more sympathetic when you do learn about her backstory in season 4. But I think for like from the first time you see her, you're really interested in finding out who she is. Right. You're kind of rooting for her as a private person, even if you don't agree with any of her actual machinations.
Right. Yeah. Like, and
the thing
that's not to say like all this stuff that I just said that I don't know if I liked the trope that they were kind of following with that. She's still a great character. Like, despite all of that, she's fantastic.
And from her perspective, she is doing an absolute good thing. And it's not just like you have to, to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs. When she makes the omelet, all the eggs are eggs again. Like, no shell has ever been broken, to use that metaphor. Like,
you have to
it's all
break some eggs to make some non-broken eggs.
Right. It's all temporary to her. She believes there is going to be a reset, and she believes this so sincerely. And I love that when we do get this other version, this alternate universe where things are good, Elliot's portrayal of her, she's not like a tech mogul. She's not a businesswoman. She's a philanthropist. She's the greatest philanthropist this world has ever seen. Because I think especially after that that scene between the two of them in the room with the old computer and all the glass bricks. Yeah. Like, I love that scene because it's these two characters actively, sympathetically listening to each other and trying to get the other person's perspective on what they've been doing this whole time.
Yeah. Because Whiterose genuinely wants to be the good guy. And I think that's incredibly sympathetic once you know the backstory and you get that beautiful shot of once her lover committed suicide, right there, it kind of pans over to the desk and they have a giant vase of white roses right there. And I was like, that's it. That is the that is how she got her name.
This is the origin story.
Which I liked. Like, I really enjoyed knowing all of that stuff. And then it comes to this kind of operatic crescendo when they are out on the steps of this building.
Yeah.
Meeting, and the they're looking at all this stuff, and it's funds, with Jaron and over Jaron, and yeah, it's just this dramatic realization that everything she has worked for is gone.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh boy. What else is there to talk about? There's so much that I'm just like I'm gushing about this whole thing.
I want to talk about I think maybe one of my favorite episodes this season, episode 404, the one where they spend Christmas lost in spooky woods.
Yes, this is another fantastic episode.
Because I'm sitting there thinking, this isn't real. This is not a real show. This is a grand practical joke played on all of us. We're spending Christmas wandering around in spooky haunted woods.
So here's the thing. Once they introduced this concept of multiple realities, that's what I was wondering if this was. What if we're starting to see the flash sideways that we got in Lost, right? That is what if this is another reality? And that's why they feel like something is weird, something is up, this isn't how things should be.
They're in a limbo.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I was wondering if it was something like that, because they keep saying this is a nightmare, right? And stuff and the whole thing is kind of stylized and themed after 80s horror movies and stuff like that, and it's just there's something up with this too. Something is not right. But yeah, it's a fantastic episode. So good.
Tyrell is fascinating to me in that he's so delightful to watch, and that you have no idea what's going to happen with him, because whatever you think is going to happen is never it. It's like some grand joke of the series that Tyrell is never as important as it looks like he's going to be.
Yeah.
This season, it's Philip's backing out. Tyrell's going to be the new CEO of E-Corp. Oh no, Tyrell died in the woods.
Yeah. He was so excited too. He went over to Elliot's house and was like, Elliot, they called me. They finally called me.
It's what we've always wanted, Elliot. In his, Jack described it as inexplicable and unconditional love for Elliot.
Oh yeah, it really is.
I liked seeing that confronted, where Tyrell's like, I dress up because I want to impress people, and I especially want to impress you, and you wear the same dumb black hoodie all the time, and you don't care, and I think you've never cared about me. And Elliot's like, yeah, I haven't. And then at the end, he's like,
shit, dumbass. What do you think I'm doing all of this for?
But the part where he says, I think you're the only person who actually likes me, it's real cutting, because it's true. Yeah. Tyrell's the person who is right. And Tyrell's the person who is consistently the most on Elliot's side. He always wants to work with Elliot. He always wants to be there. He wants to be partners with him. All the other people in Elliot's life who do love him, like Darlene or Angela, end up there's moments where they turn on him, but they're like, I'm done with you. And then they just get wrangled back in. But Tyrell's always tried to be there. For some reason.
Yeah, he's always just but you're a god. Why are you doing this? I don't understand. But you're a god.
You know what's wild in the final episode, where it's revealed that we are watching this mastermind personality. They talk about him like a god. He's been playing God with Elliot's life. It's oh my God, Tyrell has been right this entire time.
Yeah, he saw through all of the bullshit and was oh, he's this is another persona of the real Elliot.
I don't know if it's that specific, but yeah, he looks at Elliot as we all believed that we've known him. It's you are something tremendous and special, and you are here to do great works. And he is. Vera kind of also sees this. Vera in this season was like this dark mirror to Tyrell, where he also looks at Elliot like he's the architect. He can do these great things, you know, he's above a normal man, and let's partner up together and imagine all the things that we could do together.
Yeah. That's an interesting comparison that you have Vera kind of on the darker end of things and Tyrell on the lighter side of things, even though like what he's trying to do is often bad things or not good things. But yeah, like there's so much to unpack in this show, and I think it does it all really, really adeptly. Because that episode 4 is also kind of about suicide, right? And I think that's the one that they do the suicide hotline on, right? Is that the one? Or is it...
I think it's 2 other. I think it's like the episode. It's like 3 and 6, maybe, because it's when Elliot sleeps with that woman. No, I think it happens twice. Okay. There's 3 different hotlines at the ends of episodes this season. That's how serious it has gotten.
That's how very intense it is. Yeah. I have a bug here in the studio.
Oh no.
But yeah, like it like that shows you, I think, the level of intensity. But like when the show hits on those topics, they do really, really great explorations of that stuff, or at least from my perspective. Because I don't necessarily struggle with that stuff, and so it's like I am enamored by how they are depicting this on screen in a way that is emotionally taxing, and it makes me scared, and it makes me tense, and at the same time I'm fascinated, and I want to watch this stuff. I want to continue watching this stuff. Like, I think for Tyrell specifically, right, when he kind of sits down and he's just like, I'm done, I'm gonna sit here and die, even something like that, like, you still feel for him, right? When he starts arguing with Elliot, you still feel for them, right? It's just like, no, don't argue. What are you guys doing? Like, get up, go. It's like half an hour to the next town. What happened?
Right, Elliot's just wearing a hoodie. I'm really worried about him. He never eats or puts on a coat.
Right, yeah, but like,
he's not well.
But when they start laying into one another, you're like on both sides, just being like, well, he has a good point. Well, he has a good point too. Okay, good rebuttal. Another good rebuttal. Okay, you know, and like it's hard for me to explain, to be like, I'm rooting for both of them. I want them all to survive. I want what's best for all of them.
Yes,
but they're at the same time not good people, right?
Yeah, you have to develop a sliding scale for good people in this series. Like, even somebody like Ollie, for instance, who's a terrible boyfriend, you know, kind of a sleazebag of a guy. It's like, yeah, well, Ollie's never killed anyone or committed very serious crimes, so yeah. How bad can he be?
Yeah. So next thing that I want to talk about is when we finally see this kind of alternate reality thing. It was interesting because it starts to break down in a strange way. Because at first you're like, yeah, it's like, oh my god, they actually did the thing. Like, they went to an alternate reality. What is happening here? Now there's 2 Elliots running around and stuff like that. But then they kind of start breaking things in the sense that Darlene is not there. Like, she does not exist in that alternate reality. So that was, I think, at least my first hint that I really clued in on and was just like, something is wrong here. Like, I guess there could be an alternate reality where Darlene doesn't exist, but that seems strange for what they've been talking about this whole show of, like, it could be perfect. Like we could have exactly what we want.
Mm.
And never in the show have they said, well, we don't want Darlene here.
No Darlenes.
Right? So that was my first thing of like, Darlene is not there. But then there was a theory that I had that, like, hey, if they died in the original world that we had seen, they would be over here in this one. But then that didn't hold up, and it was a whole thing of like, well, Dom is there and she's a cop, but she's not dead. That's strange. Right. Like it was just like there were smaller things that might not have even really added up. Like I don't even know if what I'm saying holds up.
No, I get what you're saying, that you believe it to be an alternate universe. It doesn't operate on any clearly set rules or patterns. We're like, okay, everybody's back alive and here they are. Or, dead characters are removed, because some of them you see again and some of them you don't.
Right,
yeah, like you can't figure out what the rules of this world are.
Can't get your footing, which is an interesting feeling because I feel like that's what Elliot is feeling at the time. Like, he doesn't understand it. He doesn't know what's happening exactly. And then once he kind of realizes that he can at least be married to Angela, which is what he's wanted for a long, long time, like, he tries to do all of that and ends up murdering himself kind of on accident, but ends up like finishing it.
Right. This just turns into a very dark episode of Twilight Zone for a little bit, where Elliot confronts his own double, kills him, and tries to replace him.
Oh my god. Yeah. Which, speaking of Twilight Zone, so we've often been talking about some of the influences of the show. Season 1 being like V for Vendetta and Fight Club and Taxi Driver or whatever, to like Fargo in season 3 and stuff like that. Season 4, I do think, is a lot more like the Twilight Zone.
It felt Hitchcockian to me.
Well, it's especially again, I was about to say season 7. Episode 7 definitely felt very Hitchcockian, where it's more of a play. It takes place in those 2 rooms, and that's it. Whereas something like episode 4 is like, is this an alternate reality? We don't really know, but weird things are happening. Right?
Or that shot of the staircase in episode 5, maybe the best shot in the entire series.
It's great. But then to have Christian Slater being the narrator for most of this season instead of Elliot, he has a very, very Rod Sterling-esque voice and delivery with this, and I was like, this is good. I like this. They should have him on an episode of the Twilight Zone that Jordan Peele does now, because he's the new narrator for all of that stuff. But Christian Slater is knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, whew.
He was doing phenomenal.
Everybody's on their A game this season.
Yeah, and it stinks because I would have liked to see more of Angela in this season too.
Yes, I loved Angela, but
was the first big twist of the show is when they like
we forget that this is how
5 minutes of the show.
The first episode of this season, it starts with Angela dying, and it ends with, you think Elliot is dying? Like, he's like the Dark Army comes in and drugs him. That's Sam Esmail playing the guy who injects Elliot, and he all of Elliot's life flashes before his eyes. It's all of these good parts. Like, there's him and Darlene and his friends in F Society, and there's him and Angela and Shayla, and the first day he meets Tyrell. That also gets in there.
Yep.
dies, and then it starts over. Like, no, his other personas have come to wake him back up. Like, no, you're not dying. We're not letting you kill Elliot Prime.
Yeah. So did you have any like weird theories as this season was developing of like, oh, I wonder if it's gonna be this thing, or I wonder if it's going to be this?
Oh, I don't know. There was okay, in the final episode, you know when he hands his ID to Officer Dom and she says, this ID doesn't look anything like you? I wondered if like the Elliot, when we look at the mastermind, as it seems like they have codenamed him. I keep using this phrase that is used once in the series, but we gotta have some way to differentiate between them.
They mentioned that he's the mastermind multiple times.
Yeah, so when we look at Elliot, are we seeing the mastermind's projection of what he thinks, of how he sees himself, and thus how he sees Elliot, because he believes he is Elliot? And then when like they're on Coney Island, and and Elliot's chasing after Mr. Robot, and he grabs Mr. Robot, and Mr. Robot turns around, and it's Tyrell, and then Tyrell shoots him right after there's been this whole conversation about how you can't take over Elliot's life. Like, you know, you have to lay down and just just let Elliot live his life. I was confused for like a minute, like, are you another personality of Tyrell? What's been happening here? But I think it was just all like weird visualization tricks. I've been thinking about Tyrell's role in that final episode a lot. Because here's the thing, like him and Elliot are so very important to each other, and we have no idea why or how or what it means. They just are.
It's just fate.
But one thing we've got is that out of all of the people Elliot has lost that we've seen, think about Shayla, Gideon, the rest of F Society, Angela. He learns of their deaths after the fact. Tyrell is the only person who he sees mortally injured and has a chance to say something to him as he walks away in his final moments. Like, that's the closest he has actually gotten to being with somebody who is important to him who is dying. Yeah. So I think maybe that's why it's Tyrell turning around, shooting him, burying him in the sand at Coney Island.
Wild stuff. So yeah.
Did you have any weird theories?
I did. Clue number one is that all of Elliot's login information and passwords and stuff is Sam Esmail, or like some variation of the creator's actual name, right? And then in the alternate reality at the end, when he hands the ID and she's like, "This looks nothing like you," I was like, what if it actually is the creator? Like, what if we're gonna get so meta, it's gonna be like Grant Morrison esque, where he meets his creator at the end of Animal Man and stuff like that. And like, I was like, it could happen. Like, there's a lot of creators that try to write themselves as the main character and stuff, and I like. This would be an interesting way to do that, of like taking a critical look at yourself and your problems. I don't know the creators. I don't know if he struggles with these things. Who knows? But yeah, that was the thing of like, if we've never seen the real Elliot, is his name even Elliot? Right? If Mr. Robot is a made up name. Right? Like, how do we know it's not just Sam Esmail as, like, starring as Mr. Robot and Elliot and his mom and young Elliot?
Oh, man. It's in him the whole time.
Right? Like, I think something like that would have been wild.
I'd buy anything from this show.
Really? Seriously. Magic beans, here, buy this. Okay.
What I really appreciate about how the series ends is that you do get this very clear explanation of, no, you've been watching another personality of Elliot the whole time. here they all are. We'll lay them all out for you. Mr. Robot, the Mastermind, the Mother, the Child, and Elliot Prime. We need to give Elliot Prime his body back so that he can reconnect with Darlene. And I love that that's the point of the whole thing, is his brother-sister relationship. That's the crux of the whole series.
Yeah.
The greatest thing he does is like the Mastermind does as Elliot is tell Darlene he loves her. So to have her looking down at him and saying, hello, Elliot, as the final moments of the series. Top notch. Perfect. Like, it ends very clearly like, all right,
Back.
we revealed all the cards. Here they are. But there's so much ambiguity before that regarding other things that you're left to wonder about. Like, Whiterose's machine, Elliot shuts it down. It breaks. It is not proven to us that the machine does not work the way she thinks it's going to work. There's that bit in the first episode of the season where Darlene's like, I swear I saw Angela walking down the street. And Elliot's like, no, it's the grief. You're imagining it. Angela is dead. Is Angela dead? She said, Whiterose showed me her machine. She showed me how this works. Think about Angela. Think about all the terrible things that have happened to her. Remember in season 1 where a man shoots himself in the head right in front of her and she gets blood on her shoes and she's kind of all right after that?
Gotta buy new shoes now.
Whatever Whiterose showed her broke her. It had to have been something of this magnitude. Like, maybe she saw her double and that's what's making her so shaky and weird in all of season 3.
Tests. We know that. Like, the machine has been tested multiple times and they seem to be working is what is implied.
Yeah, so the machine may have worked the whole time. There may be an Angela. The final time we see Tyrell is really ambiguous. Like, he's got a very bad wound, but it doesn't seem like, oh, you're dead in 10 minutes. You know, maybe not. He walks away into the woods. There's been this howling noise the whole time that Elliot hears too, so it's not just in Tyrell's mind. He walks away into the woods. He like collapses down in the snow and there's some pulsing blue light and he looks at the light and he looks like happy. And then its screen fades to white and the episode ends. So we don't know what that was. Tyrell might still be out there. And then there's the thing where their mom dies and they find that their mom had a safety deposit box that they didn't know about. And whatever was in it has been sold. What the heck was that?
Yeah, we don't know. Could be jewelry, could be some kind of family secret thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. Like, there's the series ends like the last like 20 minutes. It's like, here's everything you really need to end on a clean footing with this series. But there's all this other stuff on the side that's lingering that you're going to be thinking about for the rest of forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. Wow. This was a good show. I loved it.
Do you want to talk about going back to episode 5, which is the dialogueless episode?
Yeah, you can do that.
Because I didn't even catch on that was the premise of the whole thing until like 20-30 minutes in. Hold on, I have to plug in my dang laptop.
Laptop is dying.
Okay. Because the show, it will have moments of silence and it tells a lot with expressions, with actions, with text on screen, with computer logs and texts and things like that. So it's like partway through the episode where I'm like, oh, nobody's going to talk the whole time.
No one is
That's
spoken.
what we're doing. Yeah, no spoken dialogue. That episode was so impressive. And I really appreciate how weird the show lets itself be. Not weird in this like cerebral, existential, like you've never been watching the real Elliot the whole time kind of way. Weird in the way where, like, it's kind of silly sometimes. Like, Elliot's running away from these police officers that have caught him hacking into this bank, and he runs past a movie theater, and to like mark it as December 2015, he runs past a dramatic close-up of the movie poster for Alvin and the Chipmunks and the road chip.
Yeah.
And then he's The hardest I have laughed in months is Elliot stumbling in his shoes across an ice rink while Ave Maria plays quietly in the background.
Yeah.
He's such a mess. I love that episode. It's almost like an extension of the episode from last season where it's all one shot and he's like running
Almost,
through
yeah.
the E-Court building. He's exhausted. He's just running, and it's all he can do. And he keeps like running across an ice
It's
rink.
like the next
falls
day
over a
after he's
bridge.
been lost in the woods all night. Like,
Oh my god, yes. All of this happens. Episodes 4 through like 9 are all on Christmas Day.
yeah, wild.
It's all happening at once.
So, to piggyback off of that one, I loved how it was like that is more of the hack. It's not focused on dialogue or emotional states or stuff like that. It is focused on we need to hack our way into this building, some with physical hacks, some with like on-site hacks. We need to do all of this like Mission Impossible stuff to make it work. I loved that. One of my big critiques of this show is that after season 1, it was less about hacking. Like season 1 sold me on the hacking, and I think was the overall idea of the show. Like I think the creator is quoted as saying something along the lines of like, I wanted to create a show that like focuses on hacking culture today and what that is like. And season 1 I think nailed it. In like again, as I keep saying, they nailed it, but in a way that it like has their influences like just clearly visible. And it's great that it grows beyond that, but it kind of loses steam on like, it's all about the hack, man. We just need to hack in, and we can do it, and we can sit here and hack, and I don't know what that makes it sound stupid, but I just felt like it was less about hacking the more the show went on, and it became more about Elliot and his mental issues and how to deal with them and how to struggle with them, which is a show I would still absolutely watch, and I did, and it was fantastic. But I just felt like it lost what its original purpose was, or at least like stated mission. That makes sense. Like they still have the like in-world mission of bringing down E-Corp and stopping Whiterose. Like that seems like a natural progression to me. But season 3 and 4 especially focus a lot more on the emotional states of these characters rather than like the technology of how they will do these hacks. I think that is maybe one of my bigger critiques of the show. I don't know if you thought the same things or if you noticed it.
No. Not really. I wasn't sitting around waiting like, oh, when will they hack again?
I was. Like, man, show me the technology. How do I do this? I want to learn. Hack the planet, man. Come on. Yeah, no, I mean, I still loved the show. I thought the directions they took it in were fascinating, were great.
Yes.
But yeah, it just seemed a little bit strange that it was so hyper-focused on the hack and the technology. Like, how do we do this? Oh, we need to get a Raspberry Pi and do this thing and that thing. And I know me just saying the word Raspberry Pi does not make me sound smart. But yeah, like and that's the thing. I guess I don't know then if I wanted the rest of the show to be more about the hacking or season 1 to be a little bit less about the hacking. Because I think it almost also might make sense to have it be a little bit less about the hacking and have season 1 be more about the emotional states.
I think the hacking is, that's something pretty unique to this show, that it is, it's not like CSI, cybercrime. We're fighting against the hackers with a hacker of our own.
Watch that show.
A quirky. It's we're seeing this from their perspective. It seems pretty true to life. And that's sort of something this show doesn't, no other show has really done. So that really marks season 1 as something very unique. It really grabs the audience. And I feel like that's like, okay, we're in. Let's get weird with it now. You came for the hacking. You're going to stay for the weird theme episodes.
Yeah. And like, it's not, if, I mean, maybe that whole arc is a comment on hacking culture, that sometimes a random group will kind of come together and do something, and it's going to be fantastic, and then people move on, right? And it like, because I would have loved to see more about F Society and the characters within, but we don't really go back to that as they are all kind of killed off, right? Like, that is one of the tragic things, that the people around Elliot, one by one, are slowly being killed off till the end, when he has no one but Darlene.
Yeah. We don't even know if Cordy survived.
Well, I doubt a fish could survive an explosion like that, but he did have a nice case at the end.
Yeah, I'm glad Cordy survived to the end. Like, Angela had it, and then like Whiterose got it somehow. Somebody's been caring for that fish.
Or at least was a clone. That was another thing. Fish, because they're like, somehow you got Cordy. I don't know how that happened, but.
He's been 2 Cordys. I noticed that alternate universe Elliot, which is a world that we find out it isn't like an alternate universe like Whiterose promised us. It's a world Elliot kind of made. That Elliot doesn't have his pets. Yeah. It's like, oh, you don't have your own Flipper. Where's Flipper hat in this world?
I mean, he doesn't really need them in that world, because he does actually have,
I guess
people,
so,
right? He has people around him to support him.
Yeah,
and he
doesn't need to steal a dog.
Good stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to mention and talk about here in season 4.
There's so much to cover. Oh, I went back and after I finished the series, I went back, I watched the first episode, and I watched the morphine withdrawal flashback episodes. I had forgotten that in the first episode, that when Elliot's on the subway, there's these ads for this fake movie or TV show called Villains. And this is part of what...
You've seen Heroes, now get ready for Villains.
Right, and then like Heroes was an NBC show. I believe they did have like a season that was called Heroes, Villains, but this is separate from that. Like, there's some show in the world called Villains. And then when we see this alternate universe, there's a show called Heroes. And the song playing as Elliot walks to the Washington Township nuclear plant where he's going to this universe reset in his own mind is the Beach Boys' Heroes and Villains.
Yeah, which is really funny, too.
There's so many little details that really pay off in this series. There's so much craft and care to the whole thing. Yeah. Even consistencies like, oh, Irving's back. I like that one scene where we get Irving again in episode 10. He's like, I finished my novel.
That was wild.
Don't know how he did it, because he was still working on the novel in like, what, September or something? The show moves so fast.
Which is really funny.
How do you already have
because when he mentions in the book, he's like, wait till you get to the part where he strangles his mother in chapter 11. Spoiler alert! That was the chapter he was working on in season 3, when you see him sit down and write, and he's like, and with his sausage meaty fingers, he's like, it's like, this is so bad.
It's not good. You can tell that he got where he is only through Dark Army connections. Like the Dark Army. Right. Or like, okay, well, Irving's been, he's been a loyal member of the team for like 15 years. Hack into a publishing company. Make sure his novel gets published. Like, this is his bonus for the year. You get to be a published author. And he has a full cardboard cutout of himself, a man nobody has seen before, next to all these copies of the book in an airport, and you're not expecting it, and like, Dom isn't expecting it, and she's staring at him, and she's exhausted and doesn't know how to process anything.
The funny thing is, like, if I didn't know better, I would say that whole scenario was just ridiculous. Like, who does a book tour in an airport, right?
Right.
Neil Gaiman does that. He will be flying somewhere, go to the airport bookstore, and just sign a bunch of the books and walk out. And stuff like that. And like I only know that because I've seen him do it on Twitter and stuff, where he just mentions like, hey, I was just at this airport and signed 20 copies of Norse mythology, my new book. Have fun. And so to see this character do that is really funny, because it's like, dude, you are not on the same level as Neil Gaiman. You're nowhere near this. Like, it's weird enough to just do it, but someone who can get away with it is someone who's actually a good author. Not you with his meaty sausage fingers.
The book is just called Beach Towel. It's not good.
Oh, man.
That's another one of these moments where the show is like, yeah, we're just going to get silly for a couple minutes, but it's silly wrapped up in like a still emotional connection and plot relevancy and this underlying, this underlying aura of just unsettlingness and eeriness, and something sinister is going to happen. There's a scene in the season that I think summarizes the attitude of Mr. Robot as an entire series, and it's when they've just found out that their mom is dead, and Elliot and Darlene are sitting on that bench waiting for the subway to get there.
Oh yeah, that scene was.
And they're having this really intense conversation about like, Darlene's like, Elliot, I have to go see what's in the safety deposit box. And he's like, why do you care? Like, mom never cared about us. It's not going to, give us any closure. Like, she was terrible. It's not going to make her less terrible.
Like, you're never there for me. I need you, like...
Right. And this... We mentioned it's Christmas time. When it cuts out to the wide shots, they're at one end of the bench, and at the other end of the bench is somebody in a huge snowman suit. You can't see their face. It's all snowman, and they're like slumped over, exhausted. And then at the end of the scene, where like the subway arrives, the snowman gets up and turns to Elliot and Darlene and says, I'm sorry for your loss. And then gets on the subway, leaves, and the show keeps going.
It's great. I love when they do stuff
how it operates.
Like that. So funny. Because it's so like deadpan.
Right?
Like, it's not like no one is laughing as a result of that in the scene. Like, he's not reacting during their fight. He's just like sitting there staring, and then just in the most like straightforward, like, I'm sorry for your loss. And then just walks away. Wild.
This show is madcap. It operates on a level that I've never seen another show operate.
Yeah, good stuff. I am... Sam Ismail now has my attention as a creator. I want to go back, because I think his Wikipedia said he had a few other things that he had made, like a movie or something. And then he's working on some upcoming things. Yeah, I absolutely want to check out his stuff now. So, I don't know. Great stuff. Great stuff.
I could talk about the show forever. I made a playlist for it.
Oh, nice.
Like I did last time.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Hit me with the playlist.
I can't guarantee I will do this for every show that we cover in completion here on the podcast. But at the end of every year, I make a playlist that's like one song each that is from or represents something we covered on the review show. And then when we covered all of Venture Brothers earlier this year, I made a whole playlist. It's just Venture Brothers. And then I did it again for Mr. Robot.
You'll have to
Jack helped.
send me the link to that playlist, and we'll post it in the show notes and descriptions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got?
Did you want to do recommendations here at the end of our journey?
Were you going to tease some of the songs that are on the playlist?
You want me to tell you what's on it? Yeah. Let's see. Does it have Money, Money, Money by ABBA? Yeah. Yes, it does. I remember the song from the season 4 finale of Venture Brothers. I ended up putting that on here too because I was listening to it and there's lines that go, "You are the body hidden in the trunk. You are the habit I can't seem to break. You are the secrets on the front page every week." I'm like, well, this is going on here. It's got a couple of the songs from the show. It's got Touch. It's got Take Me Home. It's wild looking back on the series, and there's so many songs that are really relevant to Elliot that are played in scenes where he is not involved at all. Like Phil Collins' Take Me Home plays over the scene of that E-Corp executive burning $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
But you listen to the lyrics and it's like, "Take me home. I don't remember. I've been a prisoner all my life." And then after you've seen episode 7, it's like, oh, there've just been like all these secret Elliot anthems hidden the whole time. Touch by Paul Williams and Daft Punk, which plays in like the season 3 premiere, has a line that goes, "You almost convinced me I'm real."
Yep.
This show's been playing a long game.
It really has.
And then the second last episode, they play Mr. Roboto by Styx,
which is also a great time to play that one, because that is the like obvious choice of like, we need to start thinking about music for this new TV show, Mr. Robot. What song should we put? Oh, I know. Domo arigato, Mr. It's like, no. But it's like the one moment that it is acceptable is to just the payoff of like, all right, you've watched this entire show. We'll give it to you. Here it is.
That's also a song where the lyrics are jarringly relevant. Yep. Everything packed into the show is it's chosen with such care. I tried to create a playlist also with such care.
Good. Yeah, we'll post a link to that so you guys can check it out down the road. But yes, recommendations. Let's move on to recommendations. Man, I first of all want to recommend Lost. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, if you know me and Melissa, we are both huge Lost fans, so you probably saw this coming a mile away. But yeah, it does the same thing where you really, really get hooked into these characters. There are strange things happening all around. There are flashbacks, flash forwards, flash sideways, alternate realities, time travel, all sorts of stuff. But I think in a similar fashion, right? Like even down to the scene when Tyrell has his final moments on the show and he walks off and the screen flashes white instead of its typical black. Lost does that a couple times too, where it breaks the norm. And yeah, I think that is a fantastic show to watch as well for that.
Yeah. One thing I really appreciated about Mr. Robot is how the majority of its twists are, it's not action-based. It's not forward-based. It's not, I thought character was going to do A and instead they did B. Or I thought character might do A or B, but instead they did G. G was on the table. It's stuff like, I thought I've been looking at this thing this way the entire time. I was wrong. I needed to be looking at it this way. It's all of these retroactive, recontextualizing twists. And Lost also does that with the season 2 premiere, where you find out what has been in the hatch the entire time, lying right underneath their feet. You think about episodes like when it does switch from you think you've been watching flashbacks, no, you're watching a flash forward this time. Or Ji Yeon, which is an amazing episode where you think you're watching 2 flash forwards and then you find out it's 1 flash forward and 1 flashback.
Yeah.
The show doesn't it doesn't do it as much as Mr. Robot, but it does have the same like, no, you weren't looking at it the right way. This is what you've been seeing the entire time.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I'm still thinking of recommendations. Do you have one you can share?
I have one. It's another show we both like, and we watched it earlier this year. You might like Sherlock.
Interesting.
If you like Mr. Robot. Thinking about that final season, it also plays with trauma and memory and the lies you tell yourself. Twice this year, we've covered series where a man forgets his entire sister.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one. I'm also gonna recommend a manga called 20th Century Boys. This is one of my favorites. Me and Paul, the co-creator here at the Whatnauts, covered this on an old episode of the Whatnauts podcast, or at least like the first couple volumes. I have since read the whole thing on my own, and I am slowly collecting it as they are releasing brand new editions of it. But this is about a guy who is now like middle-aged dude working at like the convenience store that his parents own out in Japan, and he starts seeing this symbol kind of around town, and he's oddly intrigued by it. It seems familiar. He's not sure why. He learns that it's the logo to a cult that is gaining prominence. And he starts checking out this cult, and they are prophesying the end times and all of that stuff. And he finally puts it all together. He knows where he's seen this symbol. He knows where all these prophecies are coming from. This is all stuff that him and his friends made up when they were young boys. And this leader of the cult is only known as Friend. And he has on a mask. No one knows who the actual leader is, and it's this big like mystery conspiracy of like, okay, did we really make this stuff up back in the day? Who did we tell? Who could this Friend person be? And yeah, it's just this big long story about stuff that is happening in the present, stuff that is happening in the past, in the future, and yeah, it has the same level of intensity that I think this story has. So I would recommend that as well.
Interesting. Okay. One more. One of the greatest parts of this series is how good it is at needle drops and integrating music. And for me, I think the other pillar of this is the greatest of TV, and I'd say the greatest of film is Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. Surprise.
Good stuff. I'm trying to think one more. The other one I might say is like Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Also Bad Dad.
Yeah, Bad Dad problems. Focuses a lot on emotional state of the characters. Not everything is as it seems. It's kind of wild and mental and trippy, and the ending is not what you would expect. So that one, as much as I want to recommend that one's a little bit tougher to get into if you don't know a lot of the trappings of like mecha, like the mecha genre and what is happening there. So if you're a Gundam fan, if you like all of that stuff and you haven't seen Neon Genesis Evangelion, go watch that because it's great. So, there you go. that is recommendations. Yeah, so next week, Melissa, you and I are watching a movie. This next week, I pitched it to you last week. It is called The Vast of Night. This is an Amazon original movie. I don't recognize any of the actors. I don't think I don't think there were names that I was familiar with. But it is set, I believe, in like the 1950s ish in a small town, and the two main characters are the local phone operator and a late night radio DJ. And one night they both hear this mysterious sound on the airwaves, and they are trying to figure out what it is, where it's coming from. Is it from this earth, or maybe not? Who knows? We shall see. But yeah, so that is what we will be watching this next week. If you guys have access to Amazon Prime Video, it is on there. You guys can watch it that way. Yes, you are about to interject and say something.
No, you just reminded me. So I bought this entire series on Blu-ray to watch the final season, but this show has really neat episode descriptions. So I went back to look at Amazon Prime just to see what the episode descriptions were for all of these season 4 episodes, because that wasn't listed in my box set. And I love that the episode description for episode 10 just says, "We stand Domleen."
They're hip with the program. They know all the kids lingo these days.
Jack was telling me that she could watch the episodes like on demand through her cable provider, and they would translate and like all of the text speak in all of the lingo that's in all of these episode descriptions. And the description for this episode, I think, just said, "Fans enjoy the pairing of Dom and Darlene."
We stand Domleen.
We stand Domleen. That's it. Oh, and the episode after episode 7, the description just says, "Elliot is shook."
Elliot is shook.
Yeah. Yes. This is putting it mildly. Thank you.
There you go. Good stuff. But for next month, we did want to update you guys on what we are going to be doing. Melissa, do you want to let them know what we will be doing next month?
Yeah, well, our next ongoing series we're going to do is a comic book called Irredeemable. I don't remember the writer or the artist.
I know the writer is Mark Waid. I can actually find out here because I have it.
Nice. And this is a comic book that you told me about. I hadn't heard of it, but I gave it a try, and I read 80 pages before I knew what was happening. I'm not saying I read 80 pages before I stopped being confused. I'm saying I read 80 pages, looked up, and said, oh, I read 80 pages? It's really riveting right off the bat.
It's great stuff.
And it's about a world where there's like a bunch of superheroes, and there's one superhero who's like Superman, the greatest of all of them, the most powerful. Everybody looks up to him, the most benevolent. And it's about watching that superhero become an absolute villain to the world that everybody is terrified of, and they have no resources to stop him because they never thought they would need to.
Yeah. So the comic book is by Mark Waid and Peter Krause, and the volume 1 that I have here has an afterword by Grant Morrison.
Oh, interesting. So that's what we're doing for our next monthly series. How long is this, did you say? 10 volumes?
I think it's like 30 or 40 issues somewhere in there. I don't know exactly the number off the top of my head there, but yeah, it's like 10 volumes-ish.
Yeah, so we don't know how we're going to break that up quite yet. We're going to get to it. But because we just finished a drama that, even though it had its moments of levity, was also pretty dark.
Harrowing.
We're about to start another dramatic series that is pretty dark. We're like, let's take 1 month off in the middle as a palate cleanser. And we're going to do an episode concept I've been wanting to do for a while of the great 90s sitcom trade. Because I grew up watching a bunch of Simpsons, and I know barely anything about Seinfeld. And Kyle grew up watching Seinfeld. It
Barely
doesn't
anything
know
about
anything
Simpsons.
much about The Simpsons.
I've seen
We're each...
I've seen the Yvonne Etniage one. That's about it.
That's a good pull. Yeah, I like that one. So we're each going to pick 3 episodes of our series. And so next month, you'll hear an episode where we talk about both of these series and the episodes that we all watched.
Yeah. I think you're going to pick out 3 for me to watch. I'm going to pick out 3 for you to watch. We don't know what those are just yet. So we will keep you updated with that as you continue listening to the review show, because that is law and that is required. You are hereby required to keep on listening to the review show as we do this show weekly. So welcome aboard.
If you don't, we're gonna send a dark army man after your family, and we're gonna drown you in a bathtub.
But that's cool. It's all good. So yeah, next week, The Vast of Night, and then at the end of next month, what is it? It is July this month, so at the end of August is when we will do our sitcom thing, and then starting in September is when we will be, at the end of September is when we will be discussing the first couple volumes of Irredeemable. Here we go. That catches you guys all up to speed.
Yeah, all our news.
Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT.
You can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. If you guys want to stay up to date with our show, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. Go like, share, subscribe, follow us on all of the social media stuff. We are at like 82 subscribers on YouTube. We are slowly working our way up to 100. That is our goal right now. So if you guys could help us out and subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would be wonderful, because you guys can see our lovely faces on the hair. But yeah, that is about it. We will get out of here. This has been episode 114. No, 15. No. So what is it? God, 16? Good God. Episode 116 of the Whatnauts Review Show. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know down in the comments below what you guys thought of Season 4 of Mr. Robot, and a recommendation that if someone else liked this show, what else you think they should check out. Because this show is pretty unique, and it's hard to come up with like good, solid recommendations, I think. But in the meantime, go subscribe to our channel, which is right up here in this corner, and go watch one of our other videos right down here in that corner. Got plenty of podcasts for you to check out. But until next time, we will see you then. Bye.